Hello, my name's Henry Wege. These are my partners Felix, Jack, and Avi. We've been gathering information on solar energy to present to you today. Next slide. According to the Solar Energy Industries Association, solar energy is a renewable energy source that converts rays from the sun into electricity. Dr. Jason Donev further explains, light is composed of photons, which are simply small bundles of electromagnetic radiation or energy. These photons can be absorbed by a photovoltaic cell, the type of cell that composes solar panels. However, solar energy is not used as much as other energy sources, as you can see by the pie chart to the right. The pie chart, created by the Energy Information Administration, is split into parts, or different energy sources. The green part of the pie chart is how much renewable energy was used in 2019, and the bar next to it shows how much of each type of solar renewable energy was used. Of all the energy in the US, only 0.9% used was solar energy. Next slide. The Center for Resource Solutions, a nonprofit that creates policy for renewable energy, says that solar energy is important because it provides reliable power supplies and fuel diversification, which enhances energy security, lower risk of fuel spills, and reduces the needs for imported fuels. It also helps conserve the nation's natural resources. Next slide. The problem? Solar energy is not viable due to economical reasons, or in other words, solar energy is very expensive. In fact, according to Modernize, solar panels can cost anywhere from $9,255 and $24,552 in total installation costs. This is the leading factor of why solar energy is not used as much as other energy sources. Next slide.
To solve this issue, our group has come up with two solutions. To begin, to fix the economical problems with solar energy, a nation's government could pitch in and subsidize the purchase and maintenance of solar panels. The Google Dictionary defines subsidizing as the act of a larger organization supporting a smaller one financially. In a practical application, a government would subsidize solar energy by giving a company or individual a tax credit or tax break. Next slide, please. Some countries already give tax breaks to individuals and businesses for using solar energy. The SEIA, or Solar Energies Industries Association, writes, there is a federal investment tax credit, ITC, for solar energy systems in place until December 31st of 2023. Both residential and commercial customers can take advantage of this tax credit. This supports the claim to solar tax breaks being a solution because it proves that it is feasible. An increase in solar panels being installed also calls for more jobs. The Solar Foundation writes, American solar jobs have increased 167% over the past decade, adding 156,000 jobs. In the 5-year period between 2014 and 2019, solar employment increased 44%, 5 times faster than the overall job growth in the US economy. In addition, by subsidizing solar panels with tax breaks, the cost of solar panels is in theory reduced, making this source of energy viable. Unfortunately, there are some drawbacks. Some companies may not have good intentions at heart when it comes to government funding. USCourts.gov gives us an example when they decided that the defendants, Raw Power 3 LLC, International Automated Systems Incorporated, had promoted an unlawful tax scheme. Raw Power used a solar tax credit to get money for panels that they never actually purchased. In addition, taxes or the government will cut funding in other areas to subsidize solar panels. Finally, large companies, many overseas, use lots of US subsidizing money. America's Power writes, one study found that of the $24.5 billion in PTC credits awarded between 2007 and 2016, just 15 companies received 3/4 of those credits, and 42% of that total, $8.2 billion, went to 7 overseas firms. Now to Jack Oman to explain the other solution. Next slide.
Our second solution to the problem of solar energy's economic viability is carbon taxing. Now you may be wondering, what is carbon taxing? According to carbontax.org, a carbon tax is a fee imposed on the burning of carbon-based fuels, coal, oil, and gas. When fossil fuels are burned, they release carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, which trap heat in our atmosphere and have a huge effect on both global warming and climate change. Carbon taxing would, by definition, reduce this. Not only does implementing a carbon tax reduce greenhouse gas emissions, it also promotes the usage of solar energy. Rather than lowering the price of solar energy, we up the price of other energy sources, making solar energy cost the same as others. This allows solar energy to shine above the other energy sources as it can be advertised as both affordable and environmentally friendly. International tax attorney Selva Ozelli agrees with the viability of this solution when she states that these taxes are favored because assigning a fee to CO2 pollution is administratively simple compared to addressing climate change by setting, monitoring, and enforcing caps on greenhouse gas emissions and regulating emissions of the energy generation sector. This solution has great potential, but it must be implemented correctly. Kimberly Amadeo of The Balance explains this when she says, to implement a carbon tax, the government must determine the external cost for each ton of greenhouse gas emission. The reason this is considered very difficult is because the costs can vary based on the assumptions that both scientists and economists agree on. The final agreement ends up being around $35 to $40 per metric ton. There are several, next slide please. There are several benefits as well as many drawbacks to carbon taxing. A benefit to this solution is that it supports the usage of not only solar energy, but wind and hydro energy as well. Referring to the graph on the bottom of the screen, Catherine Cleary and Karen Palmer of Resources for the Future state, the carbon tax leads to a shift in generation resources due to changes in dispatch and in investments and retirements over the long term. Generation from nuclear, wind, and solar increases by 123%, 54%, and 83% respectively, compared to the business as usual case. The other benefit listed is that it removes the cost issue of solar panels by raising the cost of other energy sources, and therefore leveling the playing field. One of the drawbacks to this solution is the fact that it is controversial in the eyes of the public. According to the American Energy Alliance, when asked, the American people reject the idea of a carbon tax, with over 60% of people opposing the idea. Yet another drawback is that common energy sources will become less available. This is because the prices will be higher than they were. It will consequently be more difficult for low-income families to afford these energy sources that used to be so readily available. Next slide, please.
After re-examining and reviewing both of our solutions, we all agreed that solution one is the preferred and better solution. Solution one, government subsidizing, has many more potential benefits towards solar energy than carbon taxing does. In fact, the American Energy Alliance, or AEA, in their article 10 Reasons to Oppose a Carbon Tax states, more expensive energy and goods damage America's economic output and overall competitiveness. It will do particular damage to high-intensity energy industries like manufacturing. Affordable energy prices in America are one of the main competitive edges we have over our international competitors. When asked, the American people reject the idea of a carbon tax, with over 60% of people opposing the idea. The idea only has support among people who want to increase the cost of energy in America. One of the reasons why government subsidizing is preferred over carbon taxing is that carbon taxing will increase the cost of energy, and even though it will lower the price of solar energy due to the other energy sources getting increased in their price, it is not the proper solution in terms of all renewable energy as well as in solar energy. Additionally, Forbes states in their article, Renewable Energy Sources, Yes or No, by Bill Maloney, a University of Houston energy advisor. What have those subsidies accomplished? One thing subsidies have done is help bring down the cost curve for wind and solar energy. Today, we see dramatically lower costs for both wind and solar. Without subsidies going forward, Skelly believes costs for both wind and solar will be about 3 cents per kilowatt in the hour per US. Next slide. In conclusion, although government subsidies have more benefits than carbon taxing does, these two solutions can work together to create a huge driving surge in solar power, as well as get rid of some of the economic disadvantages and costs associated with solar energy. According to the Center for Resource Solutions, renewable energy provides reliable power supplies and fuel diversification, which enhances energy security and lowers risk of fuel spills while reducing the need for imported fuels. Renewable energy also helps conserve the nation's natural resources. In summary, solar energy is important, as solar energy is one of the only feasible and green renewable energy sources. To cut down costs of solar energy, we must implement solutions such as government subsidies and potentially carbon taxing in order to get that solar price down, and we will soon see a driving surge in solar power. Thank you. This is our bibliography. And that's it.
Hey, terrific. Thanks, guys. Okay, I got a couple of questions for you. You guys hold your applause, hold your applause. Questions first. Okay, I'm gonna go right down how I see you guys on my screen. So Felix first. So Felix, give one specific way your thinking changed as a result of learning about Henry's findings. Like when you read Henry's paper, how did it change the way you were thinking about solar energy?
All right. So my thinking changed by looking at Henry's research because I always thought that solar was completely clean. But however, there are some environmental downfalls, such as the fact that solar cells contain toxic waste when you have to put it into the landfill and burn it. And I learned that by looking at Henry's research, and that's how my findings changed.
Awesome. Let's see, Jack, you're the next one down. Find an example of a compelling argument from one of the other guys' reports that you guys did not actually use in your final presentation. So what was something they said or that you read that was actually pretty good, but it just didn't make it in?
Let's see. We decided to exclude the argument from Henry's paper that solar energy could have negative environmental effects because our research question ended up focusing more on the cost of solar energy rather than its effects on the environment. So that's really the only reason we didn't include it, is because we decided on something different.
Terrific. Okay, Avi, you're the next one down on my screen. Describe an argument from your peers' individual reports that made you think differently about the conclusion you guys came to. You guys came to the conclusion pretty clearly at the end that a subsidy was the best possible solution. Whose research would you say informed that the most?
Well, I would say, Mr. Welty, that during the peer reports, we looked at Felix's technological lenses, and we saw how solar energy isn't that efficient because this is a quote from Felix: "They cannot work all day or in all weather conditions, and they cost a lot to install." And that last part, cost a lot to install, is probably the main focus of Felix's research. Because Felix's was about technology, and that technology can be expensive. So that definitely helped shape our conclusion that solar energy is definitely currently expensive right now. But with our solutions that we have, it can help us. And since that quote did say that solar energy is one of the most efficient energy sources on the market, that also leads into our conclusion because we need that efficiency. And we actually had to change this because we thought that solar energy was efficient. But it turns out that solar energy, because of the cost, that gets rid of that efficiency. So in turn, our solution through Felix's research about the technology and the cost of solar energy and its technology helped us to form our final conclusion that we need government subsidies, carbon taxing, and kind of other sources as well in order to cut down that cost of solar energy and to make solar energy more of a viable source.
Perfect. Thanks, Avi. And then finally, Henry, looking out at all of your other colleagues' work, which one would you say had the biggest impact on you guys coming to the conclusion you did? That is, whose research helped to inform this idea of either subsidies or taxation?
When planning the TMP presentation, we encountered the issue that we missed a key explanation of how solar panels worked. We knew that solar panels were not effective for their price, but we did not understand what part of them were ineffective. Felix's research on how solar panels are not profitable at all in cloudy weather or in certain areas with a certain degree of shade helps us understand what about solar panels is not profitable.